not advancing.
That's okay. So we're talking grocery shopping essentials, and just the basics of what it looks like to grocery shop. So it's something that I'm sure a lot of us are doing a little less frequently right now, just due to the pandemic. Um, so grocery shopping might look different now than it looked like before, and we know that grocery stores can be overwhelming, especially if we go in without a plan. I know that many of you know the cardinal rule or cardinal rules to grocery shopping are don't go in without a list or a plan, and don't go in hungry, because that's an easy way, as this slide mentions, to spend $100 or more in stuff that just might look good or you think might taste good right this minute. But then you get home and you're like, how do I not have anything to create a meal from? I know that I'm guilty of that. And so, especially during the pandemic, I've been more diligent to make a list. And so, as the slide suggests, it's a battle mostly fought at home. And as I said, creating a plan, making a list, and making sure you take stock and inventory of what you have at your home before you go to the store can be super helpful, so that you don't end up with 10 boxes of pasta or 10 cans of beans that you may or may not use. I don't know if that's ever happened to you, Sue.
Yes, 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 yes. And sometimes if I make the list without going through the pantry or going through the refrigerator, I end up buying more of things than what I need. I did that this past week. I went to get peanut butter, and I didn't realize that my husband had put the peanut butter way up on the top shelf. So I didn't look, and I ended up buying more peanut butter that I didn't need.
Thankfully, that's something that doesn't go bad. And it wasn't like, two more bags of apples or something.
Yeah.
I found that it's super helpful. I use myrecipes.com quite a bit, and it'll create a grocery list for you. And
Oh,
then
really?
and then I go through and mark off what I already have.
Oh, recipes.com. I'll have to try that one.
Yeah, I think it's called myrecipes.com, or maybe we'll link it when we post the video. But
Okay,
it's
great.
super helpful. So then you can just mark off, if you have that can of tomatoes or the peanut butter, that it's not something you need to get. And so I'm sure many of you might have heard that you should shop the perimeter of the grocery store. That's where fresh and frozen tend to live, and the middle is filled with more processed foods. And so, as the slide suggests, the entirety of the store is designed with you in mind, but make sure that you're staying on task. And that's where the list comes in handy. So there's a couple ways to organize the list, whether it's by aisle, or if you're super familiar with your grocery store, and you can put it in order, that's really helpful. But it is designed in sections. And so you'll notice on the diagram that it has the produce to the right, working into the deli, the meats, the dairy, and then protein and like health and beauty is listed on this one too. The middle white shelves are more of that processed food. So that's where you'll find canned food, cereals, boxed food, more of your non-perishables on the inside. So working the perimeter tends to be the healthier options, and just the more fresh options.
And it's a great way so when I grocery shop, I do the perimeter first. And then you can determine what is left over that are needs. And a lot of times I spend very little time in the aisles. And it's not saying that those foods like canned beans and pastas and things are bad. It's not saying stay away from them. We've talked about this in past webinars. It's just more of like, make sure that the majority of what you're getting for your nutrients and fresh minerals and stuff, you're getting it from the perimeter first, and then supplement with anything that's left in the aisles.
I don't think it's actually true, but I tend to do that because it makes me go a little bit faster in the middle aisles, because I feel like the food is going to get warm or get out of temperature quicker.
Yeah.
So I think that's just a mind game that I tend to play with myself. So this is talking shopping produce. Bigger does not always mean better. I tried to find the article before we got on today, but it's an article that I've read that says pineapples have the same amount of sugar and nutrients in every single fruit. Just the bigger it is, it means the water content is higher, so it's less sweet if it's bigger. So just because a pineapple is bigger, or just because something is larger, doesn't mean it tastes better, or doesn't mean that it is better. It typically has something to do with the water content in it. Avoid bruised or physically damaged items. It's not because ugly produce is bad. It's really just so that it elongates the shelf life at your home. Because I don't know about you, but I will often do one, maybe two grocery store visits in a week, at least
same.
before the pandemic. And if it does have that bruise on it, then you want to eat it right away, which is why people, or why you should tend to kind of avoid the bruise or physically damaged items, because I let food sit a little bit longer at home before I cook it.
It's when you were saying that the bigger that it is, the more water is in it. I was thinking I'm growing cucumbers for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
and they're huge. But I've noticed
Dehydrated.
I'm just gonna eat more of them.
Yep.
They're huge.
It really is a good way to stay hydrated, though, especially this time of year. That's funny. So how to shop for produce. I know Lori mentioned this maybe on one of the first couple of webinars, but pick a variety of colors, because the colors are a really good indicator as to the vitamins that are in it. So you often hear, orange produce, oranges, grapefruit, carrots, tend to have a lot of vitamin C or vitamin A in them.
Yep.
And if we shop the variety of colors, then we're getting a variety of nutrients in them. So you'll notice the visual to the right just shows the different colors that you should be looking for. Fresh versus frozen. Of course, fresh, especially in the growing season that we're in, there's a lot of fresh food that's available. Frozen is also a really great option. So I mentioned that I don't tend to cook the food right away when I buy it. So I do opt for frozen because it's frozen. You'll hear the ad say it's flash frozen at the peak of ripeness. It's true. And they really are freezing them right when they're ripe and right when they're ready. So you are getting the fruit at the peak of ripeness. And don't let your eyes do all the shopping. So that's where we were talking earlier about going in with a plan and going in with a list, because I think produce is so beautiful and I want it on my counters all the time. But that isn't always good for having food go bad. And so that's where I've started to opt for frozen.
For those of you guys who don't know Lisa, she is a connoisseur of different kinds of vegetables and things that are in season. I love to learn from her. So from someone who wants to know how to know what's in season, where do they go to get that information, Lisa?
Yeah, so of course, the farmer's market is a great option if you are able. A lot of the farmer's markets here in Charlotte and Mecklenburg County are open. But if you Google North Carolina agriculture seasonal chart, then it has this really awesome chart that says what's in season in North Carolina during each month. But also just following different farms or growers on Instagram or Facebook that they're posting right now, like what they're taking to market, what's in season. That's been my kind of best cheat sheet because I'm scrolling Facebook or Instagram anyway.
Yeah.
And I would recommend following like Wild Hope Farm. They're really awesome. Barbie Farms. They're more of a fruit grower. And right now, summer produce tends to be the most popular. So right now, what's in season: squash, zucchini, cabbage, corn, tomatoes, peppers. You mentioned cucumbers are growing right now.
Yes.
It's just booming right now with summer produce. Also, if your neighbors have gardens, be really neighborly and they'll bring over some squash.
True, I'm handing out my cucumbers.
Exactly right. Call Sue and she'll get you some cucumbers.
Got tomatoes coming too.
Yeah, so it's right now and really into the fall are really, really big growing seasons. I just got some arugula and lettuce also, so leafy greens aren't out of the question right now either.
Awesome.
It's such a fun growing season. So go to the markets and see all the colors. It's awesome. So quick quiz: what percentage of food purchased does the American waste each year? This is shocking because it's really concerning to me that we are wasting about 25% of our food. And that's just like me wasting that. So I've mentioned that I like to let food sit on the counter. And so that's where we really need to be diligent about the plan going into the grocery store, just to make sure that we're not putting food in our trash cans. And if you are, then if your neighbor or if you have a garden and it's fresh produce that's going bad, I would encourage compost, just so it'll go back into the soil.
Here's the other thing that I'm finding, because I'm definitely one of those people up till recently where I found that when I shop one time a week and I try and get everything all up front, I find that my boys, there are times where where last week they loved strawberries. This week they're like, I'm over strawberries. So I get strawberries and they go to waste because they haven't eaten them. Mm-hmm. I've actually shifted to doing 2 different days a week of grocery shopping. And I've actually switched to online to make it easier. Whereas at first I would have thought, no, I need to do it all at once, and I go to the store in person, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta go to the store. Now it's finding those stores like a Harris Teeter where you can go to the express lane, you order online. It's actually saved so much time, or Whole Foods or things where they have free delivery with Prime membership, stuff like that. But I've actually found that we're not wasting as much food that way.
Isn't that encouraging?
Yes.
So I didn't think that that's where you were going to go. I thought you were going to go 2 different places. I thought you were going to say that I've started freezing strawberries, because there's definitely ways to preserve food that you don't have to throw them away. So I was like, she's going to talk about strawberries and smoothies. So that's where I thought you were going, because I did freeze some bananas that I was really into bananas last week, and this week it's just not my flavor. Or I thought you were going to say plan for leftovers. So here are just some extra tips.
Just throwing up for a loop today. Keep me on your toes, Lisa.
Because with those squash, I had some squash the other week, and I ended up making a quiche, kind of a squash bread quiche type of meal, because I couldn't use the squash fast enough. And that kept better than just the squash on my counter. Awesome. But online delivery is the way you went, so I love it. So picking the best of the best. We talked about this a little bit before. Just trying to not get overwhelmed with that big wall of produce. I know that my eyes get bigger than my stomach when I walk into the produce section.
Can you say that no grocery store looks like that?
Yeah. No.
That's like picture perfect, never seen it stocked that well before. What store is that?
Right. No, that's a hoax. And when you're in there, you don't think you're putting that much into your cart, and then you get home and you're like, my cabinets or my the drawer in my refrigerator's full, my countertop can't handle anymore. So sticking to the plan is really important in that way. And then the last part of this paragraph talks about storing at different temperatures and how it ripens. So the next couple slides are actually talking specifically. And so if you're watching this on Facebook, I'd encourage you, if you do buy any of the vegetables or fruits that are on the following slides, go ahead and take a screenshot of this. This is not copywritten. This is just helpful information. I know it was helpful for me to know what to look for, how to pick what's ripe, and then how to store it. So these are in alphabetical order. There's a couple of slides that we'll flip through. I don't know, Sue, if you have any, I don't eat avocados personally. I also think avocados are ripe for about 7 minutes.
Yes. Yes.
So you have to be careful with those.
I find that if I get them that are slightly more on the harder side, it lasts longer because it takes a couple of days for it to ripen. And the ones typically when they have them on sale, it's because they are pretty much within the next, as she said, 7 minutes, they're going to be too ripe. And the flavored, it's a distinct change in the avocado flavor when it makes that shift. And again, no cracks or dents in that, but.
Yeah. And then the next 3, broccoli, Brussels, and cabbage, are all kind of in the same family. You want to look for things that have that green color, avoid yellowing if you can. With Brussels and cabbage, you want to look for some that's more compact, that you'll see the leaves on the outside are kind of loose. Go ahead and buy it like that. It's actually protecting the inside, the vegetables. And then when you get home, peel off those outer layers and make coleslaw or sauerkraut, or roast it however you like to eat your cabbage. And the cauliflower is in that same family as the broccoli, making sure that you're looking tightly packed florets and that the color looks like it should. These are all exciting because they're all summer vegetables right now. So choosing cucumbers that are uniformly green, try to avoid that yellow color. Corn, it is okay to peel back the corn when you're standing in the grocery store to make sure that the kernels are plump and that they're not dried out, because you do want that full flavor and the full nutrients there. When they're dried out, they don't taste quite right and they don't feel quite right. Green beans, I know that a lot of folks, especially here in the South, have memories of snapping beans with their green.
I'm growing those too.
Yes. Okay, good.
My favorite.
I knew that you're from Buffalo, so I didn't want to leave you out of that, but I know I have fond memories of snapping beans as a kid.
Yes.
And making sure that they do snap and not just bend. So ask grandma about that one if you don't quite know. And then leafy greens, making sure that they're not wilted or slimy, trying to get them really crisp, because I know that I am in the habit of not using leafy greens immediately, so trying to get them when they're at their crispest is best. Tomatoes, which they are coming in hot right now, make sure that they smell good. I know that with the pandemic going on, it might not be comfortable to put a fruit up to your nose, but here's where I'm going to encourage you to wash all your veggies when you get home.
Yeah.
But making sure that they smell like a tomato, that they're heavy for their size, and that's kind of a common theme, that you want them to feel heavy for their size, because that's where that water content comes in, and that it's plump and juicy and that it has the right flavor.
See, now that's a little tip I didn't think of. Yep. Yeah. Learn something new every day.
Love it. So this is fruit, and we can just run through these quick. So oranges, don't worry so much about the color, and make sure they feel heavy for their size. And that's the case with all of these. Making sure that they're fragrant, that peaches are deep in color, and just slightly soft to the touch. I think we've all had a mushy peach, which is not a fun experience. Pineapples, if you smell the bottom of a pineapple, it should smell like a pineapple. It should have that really ripe scent, and the leaves should look crisp and fresh. It should be heavy for its size, and that's where you'll get the sweetest pineapple, which is one of my favorites, I have to say. Strawberries, similar to tomatoes, make sure they're fragrant, and that you can kind of smell them. So even if you hold the box up, just be on your nose, making sure that they smell good. And
you store your strawberries in the refrigerator or out in the open?
I feel like that's the never-ending debate.
Yes.
I store mine. It depends on where I get them. So if I get them from the grocery store and they have been refrigerated, then I keep them refrigerated.
Okay.
If I get them from the farmer's market or I get them from like a farm stand, then I leave them on the counter. And I know we're not talking about eggs right now, but that's what I do with eggs too. If I get them from the farm, then I leave them, or from farmer's market or from a neighbor, then I'll leave them on the counter. But if they've already been refrigerated, leave them refrigerated.
Awesome.
Yeah. Bananas. Everyone I think has their own like preference as to the ripeness of a banana. So I'm going to say you do you on bananas.
Yeah, I
no
totally agree
for you on that.
Yep.
Blueberries are similar to strawberries, making sure that they're firm and that they're that blue color, not green or white. The white sheen is natural, so don't be fearful of that, but just make sure when you wash it off that they are blue. Cantaloupes, similar to the other melons that I've mentioned, make sure that they're fragrant and they smell like a cantaloupe, that they're not green. Avoid it with soft spots, because that's where the bruises are and it'll go bad quicker. Grapefruit, similar to mandarins or oranges that we talked about before. Make sure they have smooth skins. They should feel firm, but they should still spring back. So when you grab it, your thumb should come right back out and shouldn't stick in. You shouldn't be able to squish it. Mangoes, slightly soft to the touch and fragrant near the stem. So again, I know with the pandemic, you probably don't want to be smelling every piece of fruit. I don't encourage that. So make your best guess, and then by look. And then if you do feel comfortable, pick it up either with your hands or use a produce bag. That can be helpful just to avoid the spread of any germs.
And your mangoes, you a lot of times you see green, and then you'll see like dark red ones.
Mm-hmm.
Preference?
More of the darker color if you can, but it's more about the touch than it is about the color.
Okay.
And the easiest way I've found to peel a mango is cutting off a slice. So cut off one of the sides and slide it down a glass like this, and the peel will come right off and the fruit will fall into the cup.
What?
Mm-hmm. It's awesome. It's the best way to peel a mango.
Wow, Lisa. I could spend just an hour talking to you about that.
Who knew?
Who knew? I learned 2 things today.
I love it. So choosing the best fruits, we've talked about this individually, but things to keep in mind. Make sure that, first of all, don't get intimidated. Second, you learn from experience. And the best way that I've learned is talking to farmers and growers. But making sure that they're fragrant, making sure that they're heavy for their size, because again, that's where we're going to get the sweetness. And then feel free to rewind and, like I said, screenshot the different slides for the fruits that your family eats the most at home.
Awesome. All right. So we are running out of time. So we are going to wrap up here. We will pick up next week where we left off. And promise next week we will be much more tech savvy and on top of it, but we will go ahead and post this so people can see it after the fact.
Perfect. Yes.
All right.
It was late, but this was fun. So
awesome. All right, guys. We will see you next week.